Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and we have a heck of a show for you tonight. It has been a while since we've been on the air. We've had a lot going on, and a lot has also been going on in the world of tech. So, without further ado, we'll get right into the show today. So, I am joined once again by the wonderful Mr. Ryan Eastman. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Excellent. That's a good one. I am also doing well. Glad to be back on the show with you. It's been a while. We all were just dealing with a bunch of stuff. Been a busy time for sure. So, yeah, great to be back. Excuse me. So, there's been a lot that's been going on in tech for the last couple weeks here. Most notably, Elon Musk trying to buy Twitter. Um, I'll be honest, when I saw those headlines, I thought it was like an April Fool's joke. But I was like, oh crap, he actually means business here. And seems like we're may potentially see Elon Musk owning Twitter. How do you feel about that one, Ryan?
Cautiously optimistic.
Really?
Really?
Really? Okay.
I don't know if that'll ever be the case, but we'll see. There's a
So,
lot to dig into with that one.
right. And the crazy thing is, um, I have an article here from Reuters about how Elon Musk targets Twitter board as they adopt the poison pill. I'll get into that in a little bit. Basically, uh, Elon Musk offered $43 billion in cash. Like, how
Which he has.
how do I even express how much money that is? Like, there was some graphic a while back that took like a dollar bill and then compared it to like how much like size if you took Jeff Bezos's like fortune and put it in a dollar amount. Let me see if I can find it. But it was really
Yeah.
crazy.
I think one of the best comparisons I've seen is it's like comparatively to like a normal like American that it translates to roughly like $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
So like not a small amount of money, but still cheaper than a car.
Right. Here, there's a was it? There was something that here that visualized that. Darn, I can't find it. But yeah, it was like an image of like if he took all of his money in like dollar bills, it would be enough to like fill the Empire State Building or something like that. That was just so stupid. Um, there's gotta be something. Ah, here it is. Let me see. So median wealth is the height of a piece of Toblerone, and Bezos' wealth is Mount Everest if you climb it 5 times. So, like that distance or something. Once again, this is all probably pretty. Oh, I think it was this one. Yeah, the it was a TikTok about how wealthy he is with a rice. So here, come on. TikTok.
Yeah.
Here, there's. Just to show like how much that is in comparison. Like, jeez. It's freaking insane. Why did he shove the
A lot
keyboard
of
in there?
dollars. Just because, I guess. But speaking
Right.
of TikTok, that being one of Twitter's, competitors these days,
Yeah,
it's an
really.
interesting move to want to buy Twitter.
Yeah, definitely an interesting move. And I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where he's gonna do it whether he wants to or not. Like he's gonna have his way. Maybe not with Twitter, but I think he would definitely build his own platform, if he doesn't go through Twitter. Personally,
I don't know. Like, so many people have tried, like, their whole build their own platform thing, and it just doesn't work for the most part, at least with, like, the Twitter style of things.
well,
And, maybe there's something to be said for maybe him being able to do it better. But Twitter already has such a large built in, just, users and, like, celebrities and all that. It's all already there.
right.
They
And
have a huge first to market advantage.
here's the thing, though. I think you underestimate Elon's army. Like there are some like Elon Musk fanboys out there. Like
Oh, there is,
what
but there's
like
also a bunch
kiss
of
the
people
ground
who
he
hate
walks
him.
on. Oh yeah,
Yeah, there's a bunch
100%.
of people who hate him for like no obvious reason other than he's a little bit silly.
It's a little bit silly and
He likes a good joke. He offered 54.20 a share, in his Twitter buyout.
that's funny. I honestly that never even registered with me that it was a he got the 420 in there.
He got the 420 in there.
Oh my gosh. Meme.
They were
Dude is a
probably like, yeah,
meme.
you. His advisors were probably like, you should probably offer $54 a share, and he was like, let's add 20 cents.
Well, if you think about it though, that's 20 times whatever their share volume is.
Yeah, if you ever watched an interview with him, it's like I don't think he has really any real conception of like the amount of money he even has.
There
Like I think
oh go ahead.
I was just gonna say this might be the first time he really realized like, oh, I have this much money and I can do things with it.
Hmm.
Like I
Interesting.
don't think it's registered with him before because if you look at like he's spent money I think in the past on houses and that's about it. Like he
Hmm.
saved Gene Wilder's house or something and like some other houses nearby where his house was.
Hmm.
And he ended up selling it all, but I think this is the first time he's realizing, oh, this is how much money I have.
Right. Right. And what is it? He says board salary will be $0 if my bid succeeds, so that's $3 million a year saved right there. And then on this article, it says uh, let me, Elon Musk takes Twitter private, so Twitter board members don't have jobs anymore, which pays them 250 to 300K a year for a nice part-time job. Like, oh my gosh, like that is insane.
Yeah.
How do you get to a point where you can just go on a business, go to a board of directors and be like, hey, pay me like well into the six figures for me showing up to like a board meeting once a week? Like,
Yeah. And it's crazy. None of the people on that board, it seems, owns many shares of Twitter,
yeah, let's see. There's a this
which is
graphic
another
here.
interesting thing. That was one of the things he brought in. He was like, hey, you guys don't own that much Twitter. Like,
Yeah, stock awards. Um, it doesn't say the exact stock shares, but um, they all have fair bits of stock in there. But 225K for being on the board, sign me up.
yeah, for real.
So that's
But yeah, I'm
crazy.
not so sure that he'll end up with Twitter because they seem like they genuinely don't want him to have it that much, it seems like.
Well, that's the thing that I'm interested about because they had the poison pill that they
Yeah.
put in with that. And for those of you who don't know what a poison pill is for SEC at least is basically to prevent a hostile takeover from a company. Basically, the company can file with the Securities and Exchange Commission to dilute the value of their own stock, basically giving much more units. So therefore each shareholder technically owns less of the company.
Yeah,
I
which is
think.
insane. I think it's
Right.
also like
And
they're
it's
offering it to like certain groups first at like a less than the current value price, which is absurd.
hmm
And when you start looking at all this, it really seems like they just for the they don't want him to have it.
right.
And it really is, I think, a like power thing. They don't like
That
who he is and who he's like. Because the thing is, he's kind of like, yeah, I don't care. I want to open source all the algorithm and code. You need to be able to see what's being promoted artificially and what isn't, and what's being suppressed artificially. Like, I think it's all those changes that they're really like terrified of.
yeah.
And they like the power of being able to like hide it and everything and not have to be upfront with like, hey, by the way, we're doing this all behind the scenes. Like this is how we actually do our algorithms. This is how everything's trained. They don't want to do or they don't want to have to show any of that. It seems.
Right. And the thing for me is um like I get that, and I think that's where all social media should head personally. We even talked about that on the show here in the past of like, hey, how's it work? So at least somebody with a
Yeah.
mind can go in and say, okay, here's how the code, like here's how the algorithm's serving content, and maybe even find a flaw or something like that in it. But it's I I just don't think that and the organization of Twitter as a whole would be ready for that. Like
I don't
I
know. That's why it changed, I guess, from like majority ownership and all that to he wanted to take it private.
mhm,
Like what will end up happening if he got it would probably be he has to carve out a chunk of just employees and managers who are just unwilling to change.
right. Right, and just
Because like
basically axe all that.
there's been people freaking out and all that at Twitter like, "Oh, we don't want to do this and that and this." And they're all very caught up and scared of a guy who just kind of seems like he doesn't want to like he kind of just wants to let Twitter exist instead of like trying to force it down a certain path.
Right.
And that path has been into illiquidity is the wrong word. What's the word for just not making money?
For just not making money,
For just not making money. There's a word for it. Whatever path they're going down is
bankruptcy?
they're not I guess like they've been dying year over year for years now because of these like bad decisions and because of what they choose to focus on. It seems like all they focus on is like censoring people, banning people, controlling what hits trending. Like that seems to be their focus. And they don't do anything about bots or like anything of that sort that
They
like
encourage
actually
bots.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the type of stuff that actually affects your day-to-day users.
Right, and
And it's crazy.
the things that they have changed in terms of the controls they put in place, I don't think are very effective. Like they changed the way
They're not.
developers could create bots. Now you have to go through this like entire approval process to even get your app available onto Twitter and being able to access account information and stuff like that. But that you really think that's going to stop people? They're just going to lie about what they're going to do,
It
and then
hasn't. It's
like
just as bad,
exactly.
if not worse than ever.
Right. And like I remember it took me 4 tries to be able to get through the developer program there. Because like they didn't like my wording in like something. I was like, I want to use the login to do this. And they're like, well, you're harvesting our data. And I'm like, I'm getting the user's Twitter name and just getting a token. Like, what? Like
Yeah. It's
uh
dying.
yeah. I
Like
mean,
all the top accounts don't tweet anymore. Like as far as I know, there's no way to like discover new people well on Twitter from everything I've heard. Like there's a lot of just systematic problems with the platform,
hmm.
and instead of trying to fix it and make it better, they just don't. They focus on like their four things, and
Well,
it's a mess.
and here's the thing. Do you feel like Elon Musk would be that person that would save the company?
I don't know. That's the cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
From everything he said, I like everything that he said. Like, hey, these are changes that should be implemented. Open source the algorithm. Make everything transparent with what's going on. I think he wants a lot of people unbanned. Like, I forget what year it was, 2018 maybe,
I
where
don't
like
know.
I can't remember how many accounts were banned from Twitter for tweeting at journalists learn to code. because a
Yeah.
bunch of journalists had gotten fired, and like I forget how many years prior, like 5,000, not 5,000 is an exaggeration, but like most journalistic outlets were writing these articles that were like, here's why coal miners should shut up, leave their job, and like learn to code or something like that. So when all these journalists started losing their jobs, everyone, it's Twitter. They're going to be sarcastic. Everyone tweeted at them, oh, just learn to code. Just learn to code. Just learn to code. And a
For
bunch of people
sure.
got booted off for this. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty obvious yeah, it's a snarky joke. That's all it is. It's not something else.
Well, I think
They're clearly,
yeah. The biggest
they're
metric though with a platform like this is that active user base. And
yes.
it's like what do you consider an active user? How do you define that? How do you quantify it? And how does that show to your shareholders, or in this case,
Mhm.
Elon Musk, if he would buy it, that they are making a difference?
Yeah.
And I guess I also want to kind of touch on the implications of taking a social media company completely private. Do you feel like that's a good idea?
Is TikTok public?
I don't know. I think well, their parent company is because they're owned
Okay.
by Oracle, I think. Let's find out who
And what
owns
implications?
TikTok US. ByteDance, no. Um,
But anyway, I was going to make another comparison to TikTok in the meantime.
okay.
TikTok is not a dying platform.
No,
TikTok
that is not.
focuses on
Yeah,
two
Oracle.
things. One, harvesting all your data and selling it, or not selling it, giving it to China. Two, the second part is their algorithm is as blatant as it is.
Yes,
It's like if you express interest in something and if you watch something, you get more of it. That's it.
I literally there was a trick shot somebody did in bowling, and I have not been able to see any other videos other than
Yes,
bowling
exactly.
videos for the last like 3 weeks.
Yeah. And it's blatant and it's what they do. But it's
Right.
very much like that's what happens when you run a business to make money instead of to like have whatever, what was his face? Agrawald? I can't remember his first name. And I might be butchering the pronunciation, but whoever their new CEO is was like, basically, he said, I don't believe in free speech. I believe in creating a healthy conversation,
Oh,
which, lines up with the past bans they've made of you're not allowed to tell a journalist to learn to code. You're allowed to create articles and tweet them out and tell minors to, but a journalist, no, 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 no. They have the holy check mark,
right.
which is the other thing that's been with it too, is that the check mark's been, it's rough.
And
But like,
oh, mhm.
yeah, my last point was just I like at least the changes that have been suggested. The open sourcing everything. One of I think Musk's other ideas was like you can pay $5 to
I was
get
just gonna talk about that.
yes a temporary,
Yeah.
not a temporary, but like a whatever check mark to like show that hey, by the way, this account's run by a real person, not a bot.
Right. And basically paying like a certain fee to like have ad-free access to the site, which
Yeah,
honestly I wouldn't think is awful
and
because
we'll get into something similar later with the Bitcoin thing I was talking to you about earlier.
yes, we'll
It's
talk
a
about
similar
that.
prospect to that. But the idea is it's like having what do you call it? I don't know. It's like it at least shows that you had to put effort to be there. Like you had to pay to have this check. In
Right.
theory, I assume you could filter to have, only people with that check.
Yeah, some way
Which
to
is
show.
but whatever.
Right.
Like it at least is a way of addressing the bots on the site and at least of attempting to make out what a real user is.
And generating revenue too, which it is a
Yeah.
business and that's
Which it generates less revenue than their ads, right? But
well,
if
would
you
it?
clean up the platform, that yes,
No, what I mean like would it
this has
generate
been an
less?
actual criticism.
Okay.
Is
I
it's
could see
like I
that.
think it's
Mm,
50 something dollars a year versus like $50 a year
okay,
for
so
like
so
an ad
slightly
user
less.
versus the yeah.
Then
But what you do in the process is clean up the platform,
then make it
make it easier to
350.
avoid bots. Yeah. You make it easier to avoid bots, you make it
Mm,
easier to clean up the platform, you make a lot of things better and hopefully bring people back or at least let people look at it.
hmm. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, hey, if even if they, the way I think of this too is even if you're you're you reject Elon Musk's offer and you're on the Twitter board, you are just
Yeah, let's get
you're
into that actual part now.
you are getting so much just free consulting from the guy who has built like three successful companies if you count PayPal too. Like dude
Or if you
literally
count boring.
true. And
And if
dude,
you count Tesla Keela. I
but
think that might be by Boring Company.
for sure. But yeah, this dude's giving you advice on how to make your platform better. And I mean, get like if I were them, I'd just be like, okay, let's get the stick out of our behind and actually reevaluate this, see what's going on here, and
Yeah, well, that's
actually
not what they
see if
care about.
yeah they care about keeping their cushy little part-time job.
No, not even. Oh, yeah, the board is. There's a lot of like things floating around for what that'll be.
Hmm.
What it seems to be mostly is that they care more about having the power of owning Twitter and being able to control how they make what, to be honest, are editorial decisions, which they're not supposed to make. They're supposed to be a platform, but I digress. Uh, they like having that power to have editorial things, and that's, I think, why they've. I don't know if they've outright refused to sell, but instead they adopted that poison pill thing,
Right,
and I
and
don't think they've made an official response yet, unless I've missed that.
I don't believe they have. Let me take a look here. I've There was some news article. Um, what is it? I mean, a lot of these articles on CNBC are just speculative, but
Yeah.
there was one here that says that he hints at a possible tender offer to Twitter shareholders directly because he tweeted a tweet that said "Love me tender," like, or he's just an Elvis fan. I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I think this is just CNBC blowing something out of proportion. However, like
It's
for
most.
all we know, it could
He
be.
likes to do all that.
Yeah, like
Or this
honestly.
could be. I think he kind of had them over a barrel the second he bought that first set of shares. Because the second he bought that first set of shares and then refused to go on the board and give up his ability to buy more shares, once he refused that, I think he had them in a very impossible corner. Because now, if they reject this, there's a decent chance that the stock price plummets after that.
Right. Yeah, that it's
'Cause
a poison pill. They're
it's still a bad company.
right.
Like even forgetting the poison pill, and let's say no one tries to take over, so they don't dilute equity. Uh, the stock price is still just going to go down from here.
Right.
So instead of getting a premium for everyone and fulfilling your, and this is a big part of this whole mess, is fiduciary responsibility,
There you go.
meaning you are obliged to try and give your stockholders as much profit as you can.
Right.
And they're basically eschewing that to just say, no, we don't want Elon to have this.
Well, and
So,
the thing too is if they put it up to a vote, like an actual shareholder vote,
yeah,
I would guess that probably most of their shareholders would be like, sure, go ahead
they would.
and
And that's
cash out.
where, yeah, and that's where down the line this becomes interesting because
Hmm.
he's made that offer now. Everyone could have got out for a premium. And now it's not looking so hot. If
Right.
they say no and he pulls out, odds are the stock collapses back to where it was or worse as people try to panic sell off. And some of the people who bought in when he bought it probably get left holding a little bit of the bag and they
Right.
end up losing money on it.
Yeah.
And that would put them in a worse off position. And that puts them subject to major lawsuits from probably Musk, probably other people who have big investments in it because the board did not fulfill its fiduciary responsibility,
Right.
which could be these huge lawsuits that cripple Twitter in the long run anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think they, if they were smart, and they under no circumstance wanted to sell blah blah whatever, I would at least listen to what he was saying and at least make a little bit of like a conscious effort to see what's going on. But even if they don't, and their stock just tanks, like you said, they the ensuing lawsuits and like the fiduciary responsibility or breach thereof could potentially cripple the company even further. So
Yep.
you're right. We're Elon put them in a really, really tough place.
They're not in a good spot, I don't think. I think one way or another they're in big trouble. I mean, this isn't too, surprising either,
Hmm.
considering like when he was starting to like get involved in Twitter, all of a sudden it seemed like you got all these stories about the employees panicking
Hmm.
over like something that really is quite like not important. And it's
Yeah.
really just at this point, I think it's they don't Twitter isn't valuable as like a platform or as a stock currently. It's valuable in your ability to, if you have control of it and have control of, which once again, according to like all the laws we have for like why these platforms don't have to take responsibility for what their users say, it's supposed to be a platform instead of an editorial board. Feels more like an editorial board. But having that editorial power, I think, means more to them than actually being a profitable company.
Which is a little scary, honestly.
Yes, but that also might be what screws them in the long run.
Right.
And that's why the whole like owned privately or owned public thing, I think, is almost a moot point.
Okay. Okay. I
Because it
could see
does
that.
they're already operating kind of like a private company and not like a only caring about money company.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a little more mission focused than profit focused, it seems. But at the same
It
time,
seems to me completely.
I could, okay. I mean, I don't know. I feel like as a public company, your priorities are different from being private. Like you're when you're a public company, your goal is to make your shareholders money. When you're private, you could do whatever the
Sure.
heck you want.
But it already kind of feels like they're doing whatever they want and not angling towards actually being a good platform.
Okay.
Because it seemed that way for a while. When you're like banning tons and tons of users all the time, you're banning money.
Hmm.
And bots don't give you money, so you can still toss bots off the platform. They're not giving you money.
Right.
But like you're banning actual people. You're banning, and this is maybe the controversial point. When Twitter probably was doing its best at its highest engagement and most users, was when a certain ex-president was on the platform.
You're not
And when
wrong.
they threw them off, their engagement and their like daily users, took a big hit.
I'm not
And
gonna
that's
get
from
into
like,
that one, but
yeah. I'm staying pretty far from it in just how I'm describing it. Like
yeah.
this is speaking purely factually.
Hmm.
And in that, because you had people who, wanted to see whatever he tweeted so they could reply to it angrily,
Hmm.
and you had all the people who followed him religiously,
Hmm.
and now both of those people no longer have a reason to be on the platform.
True. I mean, now they now they all follow Elon Musk. But
That's a whole other group of people,
it's
but
a whole other group of people for sure. Mainly nerds. So yeah, I guess. Ah, alrighty. So in other news, um, at Atlassian, the company that runs Jira and Bitbucket, two softwares that a lot of businesses use in software development and all sorts of stuff like this. Ryan, get this. They have been down for almost 3 weeks at this point because they deleted 400 customers' data. Like, and that's not just 400 like people's worth of data. That's 400 companies worth of data. So basically, the system went down on April 4th, and it's like been about 2 weeks since everything has been kind of getting back. Uh, but it says the what is it? The Jira software comprises 84% of like bug tracking and like software patch management, and they said about 50,000 to 800,000 end users are affected with this outage. And the problem here is it says that basically the software called Insight Asset Management that they uh, it said their engineering teams plan to use an existing script to deactivate the standalone application. Two critical problems ensued, and basically said instead of their engineering team you running the script to not touch anything, they ran it to delete stuff. So they forgot to do a dry run, and then they set it to delete the active accounts too, not just the inactive ones. Why that's even coded, I don't know, but yeah, like
Someone is getting fired.
yeah, yeah, but
Makes
basically,
me think of the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
kind of like
And
think
that's not even a terrible comparison. If
no.
it depends on how much of that is irrecoverably lost, right?
Well, it seems like that. Well, everybody's been criticizing them for weeks now, just being like, "You are handling this absolutely horribly," because they didn't admit there was a problem first. Then they didn't communicate that problem to people, and now they're just like, "Yeah, we're gonna get to it when we get to it," type situation. And basically, um, that this article that I was reading here, all the customers have basically just been ripping them a new one because they're like,
Yeah.
our bills are like 10 grand a month, and we're just not big enough to like have you care about us, basically. And like really criticizing their product team and the support system, and basically all these companies who don't have some sort of offline backup of whatever they stored in there, they're screwed. Like there's no way to get
Yeah.
rid of that. And that,
I found a picture of what it looks like at their offices.
oh, you screwed up
That's how I
the
kill the camera.
wait.
That doesn't work, really?
No, well, I have it constrained to your little view thingy. If you want to send it to
Yeah, I
me, I'll
figured
throw it
turning
up.
off my camera, that would work.
Well, it still shows your audio, but
Well, shoot, I tried.
darn.
Anyway,
If you want to send it to me,
that
I'll
was just
pull
a
it up.
picture of the SpongeBob thing where they're all
Oh,
in the
here.
burning office. I think I broke OBS as well, sorry.
Here, give me 1 second, I think. There we go. Now we're
There we
good.
go. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good situation there. Someone made a horrible mistake and they're in trouble.
Yeah, it's it's
I wonder.
this picture, right?
Yeah, it's exactly that picture. Yes.
That this is
That's
such
an
a
accurate
wonderful
picture of what
episode.
their office looks like.
Yes, facts.
I got to imagine that they're just sitting there panicking. They're not sure what to do at this point because, like, I don't know how many companies even take local backups anymore.
Right. And especially with the way that these large applications are orchestrated, and um, the way their data layer works out, it's not even economical to take
Yeah,
surface level backups. Like what they'll do, maybe they'll back up the database, but they're not going to back up like all the files and everything, because
they
that's
don't have
usually
all the changes. I
right,
can tell you that much.
right.
Someone probably has a branch of the master code on their computer
Hmm.
that's been changed a little bit, so it might not even be functional completely. But that's probably what everyone's going to have to restore from. Like, this is an absolute disaster.
Oh yeah, like some random developer who has some code on their computer, and that's
And I
what they
got to
have to deal
imagine that's
with.
why they're being so quiet, is they kind of don't know what to do.
Yeah, like
I
they
got to
realize
imagine, like,
how big they effed up.
I don't
Like,
know if they're just like sitting there with the hard drives trying to like recover data from them or something. Like,
right.
that's the only thing I can imagine for them being so quiet is they're just sitting there with just hard drive after hard drive getting like all the data ripped off it to try and get these people their code back. But
Hmm.
it's like this is really a worst case situation for this.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
Microsoft is about to make a. You know what? Let me just go buy. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
there
just
it
gonna go
is.
buy some Microsoft stock real quick because I
Right.
imagine GitHub's about to get a big influx of users.
GitHub and whatever I mean, people are too glued to Jira to where they're not going to get away from it just yet. But they
Yeah.
definitely that definitely has opened the doors for a fair bit of companies. I'm sure that are now
Is Jira? I thought this was Gitbucket.
it they integrate. They both integrate
Oh,
together.
okay.
So yeah, it's like their asset management system within Jira that integrates with Bitbucket. I'm not super familiar with all their products and everything. All I
Yeah, I've
know is like
never used that
this
one.
is horrible, like just straight up a horrible
Yeah.
outage.
I
And
think I've used Gitbucket real quick one time, and I mostly use GitHub.
yeah, same.
Granted, we started using GitHub pre Microsoft acquisition. Did I digress?
Right. As have most of the developers out there. But yeah, so basically their estimated restoration time is 2 weeks to get this all fixed. Like from I think like a couple days ago, they still said 2 weeks, and I'm like are they?
That's bad.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, are they basically just going to? There's part of me that wonders like what do you do in that situation? Do you literally like power off your disks and basically do forensics on the disk to try and
Yeah,
get the
that's
data
my
back?
first guess. I don't know how like their scripts go about cleaning everything.
Well, it said it was fed the wrong list of IDs. So it
Yeah, but I
probably
don't know if it goes to like a temporary trash, if it goes to a permanent trash. I don't know what it does.
uh, assuming they use the same kind of like backbone that I've had a lot of experience with. Um, generally, those tenants are containers. So like they're a Docker container, a Kubernetes container, some sort of container that has their data on the container itself. What my thoughts are is in their environment, they said the cleanup script to go do everything, it just straight up deleted those containers. Therefore, you have to recover that whole container and the data. So, in theory, especially if you use some sort of cache in memory caching like Redis or something like that, that data is just straight up gone because that was overwritten in memory already. So, yeah, that's my
It's
uneducated
that bad.
theorization. So,
If it's that bad, they're in trouble.
like I don't think that their PR team is doing a great job of really pushing this down as much as they can. And but yeah, the entire IT community is like, what the heck? Like what's
It
going on?
might be the case that they have some kind of way to get it back, and I hope they do for all the other companies' sakes, but
Oh yeah. Like I hope
this is a
so.
disaster.
Like the talk about disaster, like legit disaster. This is like a full out security disaster, and the interesting thing is too, architectures are designed to prevent this exact thing from happening. That's why you basically remove your compute from your storage and database layers. So basically you have your database cluster, and then you have your storage cluster. You back up the storage in the database and whatever configuration files you use for the compute, and then make your compute disposable. So they must have a fundamental flaw in their architecture that allowed for this to happen.
Or
So
something really, or something went real wrong with whatever script got wrote.
yeah, really. Like imagine if I just wrote a script that just went through everything and was just like, yeah, RM RF everything. Like remove recursive everything. Like
Yeah,
I would feel terrible doing it. Like I don't know how like I could ship that without having like 40 people read it. So, I don't know, just a thought.
it's bad, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, speaking of things that are kind of in an interesting state,
Hmm.
you talked about
Yeah.
Android before the
Yeah.
show
I
here.
brought up. Yeah. It's the state of Android, I think is how I described it real quick. Um, it's not in a good state.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am with it right now.
Hmm.
Because like this, I in my head, this is just like an overview of like how it's looking right now, where this like phone market is, and like who are good manufacturers of phones and all that. And it's not a good situation to be in.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah, and that's coming from me. I still have an Android phone for now. We'll see.
Really?
The summer will tell. I'll
Okay.
put it that way. But right now, as far as Android phones go, that are like worth that I think anyone even like has or talks about right now is like the Pixel and Samsung.
Hmm.
OnePlus's last two launches have just been not great. No one seems to like them anymore.
Hmm.
That probably has a lot to do with them kind of merging with Oppo a little bit and them switching to, I believe it's called Color OS.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
it's
it's gotten
some
bad.
child of like the worst parts of everything.
Yeah,
But
instead
yeah,
of being rooted from like CyanogenMod and Oxygen OS, it's gonna move more and more towards Color OS, which is, if that's your cup of tea, fine, but that's, it's a different experience.
right.
Because, like, I'm trying to think of manufacturers other than that. Sony puts out, like, a ridiculously priced phone every few years that's interesting but doesn't sell because no one wants it
Because it's
the way
ridiculously
they make it.
priced.
Yeah, it's, 1700 or something, I think was there's stupid prices for it a lot of time, and it's usually something really cool. It's like this 4K screen, waterproof. Uh, I think the last one had a headphone jack that was like a quad DAC, which brought me back. Like it was this really cool thing, but that's not really what a normal person wants.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of who else makes one. If you want a budget phone, you're gonna go with the Moto, which is fine.
Hmm.
They do their job and they do it well, but like it's a budget thing. I don't think Nokia's been putting out anything. I'm trying to think of other manufacturers and I can't think of them.
I'm just thinking of
Am I
like
forgetting someone?
uh
Asus and Lenovo put out interesting gaming phones,
if
if
that's
that's what
what
you're
you do,
into, but I don't
yeah.
know how well they end up selling either.
Right.
Although they're pretty cool and they usually perform decent.
Yeah.
So it's
It,
in this kind of, I hope I'm frozen again. It's in
oh,
this kind of weird
there.
state
Let's see. Up there you go.
where like I honestly at this point, I don't know what the deal is with these pixels.
Ooh, something's going weird with my
Yeah,
PC here.
this is strange.
Yeah. I don't know.
Should I restart my camera or
I
something?
I think we're good. I think we're good now.
Okay.
Okay, that was weird. Yeah, my computer just froze for a
Pixel,
second.
yeah, Google's just not, it seems like they can't seem to squash all the bugs on the Pixel no matter what they do.
Really? Huh.
Seems like, yeah, it seems like wherever they go and try and fix one thing, something goes wrong somewhere else. They have new problems. I think they fixed the screen problems with the Pixel 6 Pro finally.
Okay.
Now there's like vibration motor problems that have like popped up for some people. Like it's just been one thing after another. Like
And this is from the
it's
manufacturer of the
unfortunate.
OS.
Yeah, and it's been unfortunate. I think it's, at least my experience has mostly smoothed out to only a couple bugs,
Okay.
which is still with like audio sources and stuff like that. So it kind of seems rooted in Bluetooth. I'm trying to remember what other problems I've had, but it's gotten smoother over time, but that rough launch really hurt them.
Yeah,
So
for
right
sure.
now it's like Pixel and Samsung are the only ones that I think anyone would want to buy at the moment.
Hmm.
And that puts Android in this weird place where like Samsung, I know they've gotten better over the years and now they have something that's a good flagship finally, or at least in my opinion. Like their software has gotten a lot more functional and smoother and it doesn't look as bad as it used to. It used to look, I hated their old OS.
Hmm.
They've gotten better at it over the years and they're the only ones making a good tablet right now for Android
Right.
actually. But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I have not their current one, but their last one, and it's actually great. But the point is,
Crazy.
Android's not really in a great spot right now. A lot of people, at least in the US still, are switching over to iPhone right now, and I'm not
Well,
surprised.
I
Yeah, I
have
know.
I have some news on that front too. I actually
Yeah.
bit the bullet and bought myself a nice little iPhone here. I got the 13 Pro Max, and I was like, I was looking for a new phone, and just wasn't real happy with OnePlus, like the stuff they've been putting out. Samsung
Yeah, it
stuff
hasn't been good.
was a little too
If Samsung's not
expensive.
appealing for you, that's fine.
Yeah,
How
and
does hold on, time out, time out. How is Samsung too expensive when you bought a iPhone Pro Max?
I mean, for what I was getting, I didn't think it was that terrible. Yes, the cost of the phone is definitely a factor here. I did find a deal though, which was good. Um,
Fair enough.
but the Samsung stuff, I just haven't been wowed by them, and I don't know. I haven't really been wowed by iPhone either, but I just feel that they're so much more
You just
stable.
need something reliable.
Right. And that's
And
the thing.
To Samsung's credit, their software is a lot more reliable than a lot of other
Hmm.
people's.
Right.
Google
Like
should be. I don't know why it isn't.
like
Samsung gets half of Google's features before Google does, which is confusing.
and I love my OnePlus too. Like that was a great phone. I really enjoyed it. It
It
was
was for the
just
time.
yeah, and it just became a little unstable and kind of through the pandemic got a little worse software wise.
Yep. And their
And
new
that
phones have been in these strange positions as well.
right, and that goes to show the change of OnePlus as a company as a whole.
Yeah.
But I will say I was proud of myself. I found a bug in iOS on the last version of iOS. Like I reported it to Apple, and they like took all my information and everything to like follow up with me, like and stuff like that, because like their engineering department said they hadn't seen this before. So basically, I did the software update and updated to like
Mhm.
15.1.1 or whatever. Um, and as soon as I unlocked my phone, all of my apps were gone. Like yeah, and it showed like the icon of the app, but it was grayed out, and I was like, what the heck? Like what?
That's strange.
Like that was a pretty big issue too. Like that's a big thing. And I was looking, and I'm like, what's going on here? So basically, I had to go through every single app. I was doing all sorts of testing to see like, well, is it just like the Apple ID not working? Is the App Store not working? What's going on here? And I found out that the apps, for some reason, got set into the like pending download state. But here's the thing: the download never kicked off. So what you had to do is you had to cancel the download, and there was something within the phone that basically like I I think there was some script when you like cancel the download, it like refreshed the app, and then the app became available, and it worked like completely fine.
Oh, that's weird.
But here's
It's
the
like trying
thing.
to update everything for some reason.
Right. And here's the thing. That cancel operation didn't work the first time. So if you hit on the app and you hit cancel, it wouldn't work. You had to do it 2 times for it to work. I put a video on my
So
YouTube channel.
strange.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link, Ryan. I put a video on my
Yeah,
YouTube
that's
channel
such a strange thing to have.
about how this works, and I called up the Apple support people, and they put me on with a senior, and they're like, we have never seen this before, like thank you. Like I'm like, give bug bounty please, but yeah, no, that
Like
wasn't
you have
gonna
to fix
happen.
the bug for that.
Yeah, really. But yeah, I found a workaround, and
Yeah.
apparently it's documented now then, and I
Yeah, yeah, and
contributed.
it's not without its bugs. Through the
Right.
pandemic and all that, their software had more bugs than usual, but it was still mostly stable.
Right. And that's the thing too. I mean, like this, yes, it's a pretty big usability issue, of course.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where once you get it solved, it's permanently
Yeah,
solved,
yeah, yeah.
and it doesn't come back. Granted, I haven't got another software update to where I can verify that for sure. But from my
Yeah.
experience, like you solve it once, and that's a full solve. I would have hated to be in your shoes where like half of your screen went blank for like half the day or whatever. Like,
No, 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 it's weird, like, every time you get a notification, your entire screen goes dark.
ooh, like
And I
that's a
still see that
major thing.
randomly sometimes.
Really?
It's so strange,
Huh.
yeah. Like, except for this small, like, circle I think it's where like the dismiss all notifications icon usually shows
Oh,
up. Except I'm not with the menu pulled down, so it doesn't, which is just strange.
that seems like
I don't
some
know what's
sort of
going on with that, but it happens like
right.
once every 10 days or so still.
Huh.
And it's
So
such a
weird.
weird there's a lot of just weird things, and this is not the first time it's happened either. This is I think it happened with like most Pixels since like the Pixel 3,
Hmm.
where Google just seems to have trouble getting all these bugs squashed for some reason.
Yeah,
Or maybe not most. I think it happened on the Pixel 2, and then like it hasn't happened for a Pixel or two, and now it's happening again.
I see.
I know it happened on one of the Pixels previously, but the point is, it's this weird mess.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, the
for
one thing I
sure.
like that Samsung has that I don't think anyone else has is their ultrasonic under display fingerprint scanner.
You and your fingerprint
That's
scanners.
so that's so cool. I like it better than Face because it works at night. It works flawlessly at night, I should say. I think the Face thing sometimes works at night.
Yeah, sometimes.
It works flawlessly at night. It doesn't light up your screen completely to do it, and it's one of the fastest fingerprint readers there is. That's really cool. And that's my favorite part about their phone, probably.
Hmm, for sure. Hey, that's pretty
But
cool.
yeah, it's just in this really complicated state. And I don't know. Like, the one thing that I'm still looking at is like, there's a chance. What's it? It's the Dumb and Dumber means. So you're telling me there's a chance. I'm interested to see. There's going to be the announcement of the Nothing phone in I don't know how many months.
Okay.
You know anything about Nothing?
I thought I read some article about them. They're not coming to mind
That's
right
fine.
away.
I'll sum it up. So Nothing is the owner is the guy who founded OnePlus, I believe,
Hmm.
if I'm remembering that perfectly correctly.
I
So
think you're right. I think you're right.
that's a good parentage to have. They released their Nothing headphones, which were those like clear see-through headphones that were kind of popped off and were cool, but like were a little underwhelming to people, I think. And it seems the way he's talking about it is he's looking at having an open garden, so to speak.
Hmm.
Like they want to create this suite of like phones and accessories and all that all work together seamlessly, but that you can make it work together seamlessly on anything if you want,
Okay.
which is an open garden, I guess, versus the walled garden of Apple,
Yes, completely.
which is an interesting way to look at it. And maybe, maybe that'll provide some competition because right now there's two phone manufacturers near as I can tell, unless the Pixel 7 is unbelievable and without bugs or anything, which after this last release, I have no faith in that.
For sure.
Because like right now, there's like two phone manufacturers. Like if you got to stay on Android, you get a Samsung, and a lot of people are just matriculating to Apple, and I don't even blame them because people who are coming from anything that I guess isn't Samsung are dealing with all this instability and all that.
Right.
And like Samsung software has been this way for years. It's been fairly uh not bifurcating. What's the word? Polarizing.
Ah,
You either love it or you don't.
I see. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely.
But yeah, that's kind of the sum up. I have fingers crossed that Nothing actually knows what they're doing.
It sounds
But if
interesting.
yeah. And I'm interested to see it. We'll figure out how that ends up going,
We'll have to
when it
cover it
releases.
eventually. So,
Whatever they're doing, I'm hope just their priority needs to be on like even before features, it needs to be extremely stable compared to other versions of Android.
right. Right.
The Bluetooth needs to work almost flawlessly. The notifications need to work flawlessly. Like they have to nail all those basics, and they're already in a better position in the Pixel, which is a sad thing to say.
For sure. Crazy. We'll have to keep an eye
Yeah,
on that for
we'll see
sure.
how that goes.
Definitely. So, the last thing we wanted to talk about today, we were talking
Yes.
about this before the show, and I still am trying to understand it. But, Ryan, you said you were watching a podcast the other day and it had something
Yes.
interesting about Bitcoin.
Yes. So the podcast was with Michael Saylor, who if anyone's familiar with him, they know that he is the biggest investor in Bitcoin, I think. I'm not sure on that, but you could definitely argue he's the biggest proponent of Bitcoin there is. And then I think it's like Lex Friedman or something was the other guy. The he brought up something interesting along the ways, and I was asking you about the viability of making it even.
Right.
The idea is to basically kind of have like, I don't know what the word for it would be. It's like a
Deposit.
passport's the wrong thing. Yeah, it's kind of like a security deposit
Yeah, there you go.
on like your internet behavior.
Hmm.
Like the idea is to be able to take some Bitcoin and like put it in a wallet and connect the wallet to the Lightning Network, which is this new network that recently opened on Bitcoin. You can do rapid transactions on it, and all that gets taken care of not directly on Bitcoin, but it gets settled on Bitcoin eventually. So it solves a lot of like the transaction length process and a lot of like the things that doesn't make Bitcoin good for like paying for your coffee.
Right.
Like this makes Bitcoin good for paying for your coffee. And it's already integrated, I think, in Cash App and PayPal or Venmo or something.
Yeah.
So like that alone is already there.
Right.
But the general, yeah. So I get the actual idea
Yeah.
of how it gets used is like, I'll tie this back into Twitter actually, right? Because there's a lot of accounts that probably would be a good thing for them to be verified, even though they're anonymous. And paying with a credit card kind of removes that like anonymity.
Hmm.
But having this hooked up to a Lightning Bitcoin wallet doesn't. The idea more or less is that whenever you like, it's kind of like a security deposit. So for example, let's say you're trying to access a website. You send some amount of Satoshis, which if you don't know is like the smallest you can split a Bitcoin is a Satoshi. So you'd send some amount of Satoshis on the Lightning Network to like basically a trust. Or not a trust. What's the word?
Escrow.
Escrow. That's the word. Like it kind of ends up in escrow on a website. And then when you leave the website, you receive it back.
Mm.
And the idea of that is if, the same wallet is sending you 1,000 requests, you take the escrow money and keep it, report like the blockchain that they're basically trying to DDoS you,
Mm.
and then keep the money. And then now you've made money. The people who are trying to DDoS you lose money, and that wallet gets burned.
Interesting. So basically, what they're doing here is instead of um, basically making sure that you are a legitimate human user by just basically putting in a deposit saying like, hey, I just want to see my
Yeah.
stuff, I'm not here for anything bad, and then getting it back.
And even
Interesting.
if you're a bot, yeah, even a bot would be able to use it if it's like a web scraper.
Right.
A web
It's
scraper would be able to use it just fine. It'd get the money back. It doesn't affect that either.
and
It
thinking
works
about it
against, yeah,
and thinking about it, you did mention like a DDoS attack. Like if you have 2,000, 3,000 bots going to your site at once, in theory, they would just give you their money and then wouldn't leave
yeah. And
because
as soon as you
yeah.
identify that this is a bot making the request, you keep the money.
Hmm.
And now someone had to pay money to DDoS you
Right.
rather than writing a Python script in their sleep.
Right.
And the way it was phrased was like adding friction almost
Okay.
to like some parts of the internet so that you can't just like hurt people or like make it hard to do things for free.
Mm. And it makes sense putting more of a technical barrier up for
Yeah.
attacks and stuff like that.
And
Um,
for the record, this isn't a product. This was just an
yeah, an
idea that was
idea.
getting put out.
It makes sense, and I mean, from a web implementation point of view, that would be a heck of a standard to force across everybody and make them do everything all at once. Um,
Yeah.
but
I imagine it'd be like a browser extension, probably. That for certain websites, you have it connected to your Lightning wallet
yeah, and I could see, but
and hook
you'd
up that
probably have
way.
to put some code on the server side to be able
Oh,
to
for
to
sure. You'd need code on
exchange,
both ends.
right? But Hey, seems interesting for sure.
But yeah, I heard that and I was like, this is an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
definitely
mostly brought it to you to ask you if you thought that'd even be possible to do.
so from my from what I've done with websites and stuff, yes, it's possible, but the amount of infrastructure and standards and crap that has to get done before that's a thing is
Hmm.
such a barrier. Like it would be really great if you could do that. Like let's say um, I am somebody like Johnson and Johnson or a big company or like Procter and Gamble, and they implement that on all of their websites um, within their network of all their brands and stuff like that. I think that's definitely a bigger proponent than it would be to just have like, oh, here's like this finance website does this website does that. But if you have the backing of a large company that puts it through their entire network, then that I feel like it would be much more quickly
Hmm.
adopted. So
Yeah, you'd probably need one person to adopt it, but like the actual thing could probably be managed. I gotta imagine you can
automatically,
manage that decentralized, even
right?
not even like centralized. You could probably manage it.
I mean, you could manage the basically the checker of whether or not you're getting DDoSed centralized through automation and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um, but the um, the actual like wallet and things like that, I think definitely are decentralized. And however they do that,
yeah.
the one thing I would be
And maybe that would even, to be honest, maybe even that would become a scam.
right,
Because a website gets you to click on it, they take however many satoshis
right,
and then kick you out and say, "Oh, this person was blah blah blah."
right. And the thing that I just find that will, in my opinion, will be the biggest challenge is yes, it's not the blockchain. However, there's still storage there. There's still some sort of record that has to be had, and that will put additional burden on
Oh
the
yeah,
infrastructure, and that will just eat up bandwidth and space. So it's one of
yeah,
those things where it's like if it's implemented correctly and implemented in the best way possible, basically just like an expansion onto SSL and encryption and stuff like that, I think it would be very beneficial. There's just a lot of those
yeah.
hurdles to get there.
Oh yeah, and I think it'd probably have to be like all the way down, almost at like the Linux layer, to be honest.
Right.
Because I
Yeah,
remember
because of
writing for
security.
like a security class or something, like filters for like denying and accepting requests to get things, like some basic like DOS prevention stuff that's like probably is not going to work in the real world, but it gets the idea around to you.
Right. But
So it had you. I think the biggest trouble would be getting it adopted. To be honest,
yes,
the actual
definitely.
writing it might actually not be that hard for someone who's like experienced in writing for these like decentralized blockchains and all that.
And
I think yeah,
especially if you
getting it to the
provide that as a service, like
mhm,
if all you have to do on a website is integrate with X service that provides this through an API, like that would be a heck of a lot easier than
yeah,
keeping that central on a server. So,
yeah. Well, the code would probably have to be open source. Just like crypto people will never adopt it if it's not open source.
right.
Like you got to be able to like let people look into what you're doing, and that means you might, get some stuff stolen by a bigger place and they might use it.
Right. But hey,
Actually, wait,
seems
you can
cool.
copyright open source. Never mind.
You can copyright open source. Well, you can copyright open source, like the base code has to either have like a attribution or something like that, but you can then add on modules and things to that depending on the licensing, and then that's closed source. So like
Yeah.
you could write
I think you won't. The problem is if you close source anything, you won't get people to adopt it. At
right,
least crypto
especially
people, and
especially
that's
in
the
crypto,
issue.
right.
And that might be where the like problem with that comes is getting someone to make all this
Hmm.
and then keep it all open source and ready for people to use.
Virtually thanklessly. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
even like Bitcoin itself, like the fact that it's developed the way it has seems like this strange miracle where like the founder has never touched any Bitcoin. So there's all this like stuff in the original wallet that's just never been touched or used. Like a bunch of strange stuff like that is like kind of what helped keep it alive.
right.
But I
But
like the
hey,
idea. I think it's interesting. It might be worth even just trying to figure out how to develop, but
yeah,
that's
definitely.
neither here nor there. That's kind of just a pipe dream. I heard that and I just kind of want to talk about the viability of it
Yeah, it seems really interesting and
because I like
definitely
the
cool
idea and it
discussion.
becomes like your good citizen passport almost to the internet that you're not like, you're not being, or it makes it harder to do bad things on the internet like DDoS and all that,
Right.
which I thought was interesting. And that would like imagine if that also became integrated into Twitter as well. It
True.
starts to solve a lot of problems for a lot of different platforms.
Right. It's crazy though. Hey, great idea, and we will definitely follow that too. I
Yeah.
mean, who
Blockchain
knows?
stuff is insane.
Oh yeah,
If you
blockchain.
really start digging down into it, it gets crazier and crazier and more like it's really cool. It's just hard to understand and like monetizing implementations is very difficult as well because open source is a huge like cornerstone of it.
Right. Definitely. But we will see. We will definitely see. I think that's all we have for you tonight. But yeah, thank you for joining us on Tech Talk Nation here tonight. Once again, want to thank Ryan for being on the show. Once again, always a pleasure to have you. And please follow us on our social media. We're trying to get back into that a little bit more. Life's just been life the last couple weeks. Hoping to get back into a little bit more of a regular schedule with this too, and hoping to see all of you back here soon for another episode of Tech Talk Nation. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.